Hello guys, so after recording our unboxing video, my RGB20s went to a black screen and with this LED light only. So after researching, we need to flash another ARK OS in this OS SD card. So we need to replace this SD card because most of the time, the SD card included in our initial purchase are not that good. So researching, I found that it is recommended to use SanDisk and Samsung SD cards. Luckily, I have a 32 gig SD card from Samsung here, and then an 128 gig Remax SD card. So we don't need to use this Chinese SD cards. So this is my 32 gig Samsung. So it's a class 10 Evo. It's my old SD card. It would work. We would just have a lot of space. So first things first, we need to prepare our flashing tool. We go to Rufus IE and then we choose either installer or portable. I would be using portable application so that I can use it in my flash drive and bring it with me. And then we would be going to the ARK OS wiki and GitHub page. So the link would be in the description below. So we just need to click on this side, or we just need to go down to the bottom of the home page and you can see the download links. For the RGB20s, we would be using RG351 MPOS. We can use Google Drive Omega. I use Google Drive here because Google Drive is faster for our ISP. So there, we just need to download that, and after downloading the 7-zip file, we would just need to extract it. So here I am extracting it. I'm going to right click and then just click extract here. So it would extract the IMG or the disk image that we would be using, the ARK OS disk image. So there's the extraction. Sorry for the delay, I wasn't recording that, so let's just cut till it's finished. Okay, so after extracting, we need to make sure that our SD card is in our computer, and then we run Rufus. You open Rufus wherever you downloaded it would automatically detect your micro SD. You see it says 32 gig on my side, so we can just drag the ISO file on the Rufus page or the Rufus application, or just we can click select and navigate to where we put our ISO. So I'm dragging the ISO here. As you can see, the ARK OS name appeared on the drop down box. Okay, so you can also click select. It's the same thing. When you click open, we would change nothing. It would just default to everything. So now let's start. And after that, we can just wait for it to finish. It would take quite some time depending on the speed of your SD card reader and your computer. So let's cut this one. It took me around 2 minutes to 3 minutes to flash this file. I have explored the original SD card of the RGB20s. It has the RG351 with just a different boot image or boot logo JPEG file, so that it will just show the RGB20. So RG351 MP, make sure it's the MP version, is the vertical one of the Amber neck. It would work, and it has similar hardware or the same specs with our RGB20s. So after this completes, right there, we can just eject our micro SD and put it in our RGB20s. So I would also recommend we put this gently. I would be removing that sticker later with a cotton swab and alcohol, the warranty sticker, so but we need to remove it. So it's very difficult for me to put it because I have big hands. So now it's there, it's secured. So we would be not removing it anymore, even if we will have problems, unless we would have problems. So here I am putting my 128 gig Remax SD card. So you see, it just fits. So just hold this for a few seconds and then wait for it to boot. So initial boot of the ARK OS would prompt the users to use or to set up the AC-ROMs partition. We can just click OK. We can set up our micro SD later for our games partition. So we need to wait for it to complete. You would have this, the device would reboot, and then you would have a bunch of command line prompts that would appear as if it was setting up a partition. So we can just leave it there. For me, I think it took around 3 minutes to 4 minutes. I didn't measure it in time, but the setting up swap file, this would happen again later when we set to switch into second SD card for games. I will show that later, but for now, let's wait for it to start. So it took quite a while for me to start, and then we can just leave it. We would just leave it and let it do the things it needs to do. I just need to center it for a while and then move it back because I'm getting nervous if it works. So here, this is my first time flashing it, and after that it would just have a lot of text on our screen because it would be working. So I would cut this again. It took a while. It's just our SD card being read, and then after that, after everything's done, you would be having another prompt where you just need to press A again, and then it would reboot itself to the emulation station of ARK OS. So again, here's the prompt. We just press A in this step. So after pressing that, it would just do a reboot and then start our emulation station. This is the default ArkOS boot logo. Just wait for it for a while and then it would start up. See, now it's working. So far, as of recording, I've been using my RGB20s for a few minutes, so we need to restart it, and then we need to add games to our micro SD. So we need to press the start button, go to quit, and then shut down system. This is the way we should shut down our RGB20s. We don't hold the power button down. It's just like a Linux computer. As you can see here, I have put the original included games SD card from the RGB20s and put it on my computer, because we need to copy this BIOS folder so that we don't have to go to the hassle of downloading and looking for the web for this BIOS. So let's just copy it and put it in a folder in our computer. So here I am not recording the other window, so let's just move it to a folder that I made here. So I'm just gonna paste the BIOS and name it BIOS backup. You can organize it any way you want, so I just did that and wait for it to finish copying. For me, there was an error in copying MAME, so it just took a little while. So after copying this, after completing your copy, you would now have a backup of the original or the initial BIOS included in our RGB20s. This is necessary so that we would save time in downloading, and anyway, it's just the BIOS files that are being used by some of our emulators to emulate the original hardware as close as possible. So let's just wait for it to finish. Oh, and by the way, the original SD card included with my RGB20s was only 64 gigs. So I have upgraded it to 128 gigs. The device is not locked to the size of the SD card it is included with. So if you want to upgrade your games SD, if you want 64 gig, 128 or up to 256 gig of SD card for your games, you can. So make sure to buy Samsung or SanDisk cards because those are recommended for longevity and reliability for the long-term use. So right now, I'm done copying or backing up the BIOS folder from the original SD card. I would be removing this SD card and then putting my new or my replacement 128 gig SD card. So if you don't see any folders similar to the setup on your replacement SD card, if you don't see anything like this, there's a step that we would be needing to do. So first things first, let's put back our SD card and boot up our RGB, our device. So we need to go into options, not the start button but the options here. Go to advanced and go to the very bottom of the menu. For me, I have already did it when I recorded. It would be switch to second SD card for games. So after that, we can shut down again and put our SD card back to our computer, and you would have this screen. You would have all the folders similar to us. So we can open the BIOS folder and then we just paste the BIOS files that we have backed up. So by the way, after you click the switch to second SD card for games, it would generate another swap file. It would take around 3 minutes again to generate the swap files and prepare your SD cards for use. So let's just wait again for this to finish. So after that, I will be showing you how to copy your games. It's just copying your games to this very specific folder, which are named depending on your console. For example, it's GBA, Game Boy Advance. So we would be copying our games from our computer to that folder so that our system would recognize it as Game Boy Advance games. So where to get ROMs? We are not allowed to share where do we get ROMs, but a quick Google search where you would put your console name and then rompack or ROM set and then archive.org would give you definitely towards the correct direction where you can copy your ROM. So right now we're done backing up the BIOS. We just go back one folder and then I have my ROMs in another folder, so I'm going to copy that. So in this example, I have a Game Boy Advance ROMs. So I'm going to go to GBA and then just simply paste it here. If you want to know what are the known file extensions for each of the emulators, just go to the ARK OS wiki and then look there for your specific ROM files, or if your emulator can support the zip or 7-zip files. So by the way, my recommended games or recommended systems for the RGB20s are anything below PS1 and except the N64. Yes, it can run Dreamcast and PSP games, but I don't recommend it because I don't want to go through the hassle of setting up settings, etc. And Nintendo Famicom to the PS1, just open it and you can play your games. The Nintendo 64 games are a bit difficult. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So right now I was able to play Banjo-Kazooie with some graphical glitches. and Super Mario 64 also, of course. So after that, we can just put our SD card back in our RGB20s and we can use it as normal. So that's all. Thank you.